Hey y'all. Okay y'all, the other day I had done a video on Cantrell Funeral Home in Detroit, Michigan. There were 10 bodies of little babies found in a ceiling in this funeral home. Okay. It just is so sad. And if that isn't bad enough, we have another funeral home in Detroit where they have found 63 babies, okay? Found in boxes and freezers. And for those of y'all that aren't aware of this, I'm going to just give you a very quick rundown, okay? Detroit has been dealing with this for a long time. The body broking business. What these people do, they're taking these bodies. They're taking these bodies of people who have died. I don't know if anybody's been alive and they've done anything to get the organs, okay? But these people, what they're doing is they're getting bodies, of the deceased people who have died, and, whatever the agreement is, whether, closed casket, cremation, whatever the case is, okay? They take these bodies and they are taking the organs from these bodies, okay? A lot of people think that, it's only internal organs, and a lot of people don't understand that, what the reason behind taking an organ from someone who has been deceased and everything else, okay? I'm about to tell you. They use these, the organs from the people, okay? Eyes, skin, hair, sometimes just an entire limb, heads, legs, feet. They take whatever they can use, which is an entire body. They will take the entire thing if it's usable, and they will sell it to universities for medical research, okay? And if you don't believe me, just look up the name Arthur Rathburn. It's a real life person who who is incarcerated right now, who just recently got sentenced. Him and his wife were cutting the bodies with chainsaws. Okay, I know it sounds gruesome. It is. I know it sounds unreal, but it is real. This is really what happened. But they were linked with another person in Rosemont, Illinois, which is near Chicago. And that's also where Kenneka Jenkins was found dead, in the hotel, Crown Plaza Hotel. And the owner of that Crown Plaza Hotel is David Friedman, who also is the owner of the crematory and a bioresearch place and a lot of other places that deal with organs and research, okay? He owns this hotel that Kenneka Jenkins was found dead in, okay? And I'm only giving the people that don't know this quick rundown because it is very important to be able to understand what is really going on, all right? But the man, Arthur Rathburn, he was from Detroit, and that's where it took place, okay? They busted them a few years ago in a three-state ring. It was Arizona, Detroit, Michigan, and Illinois. Okay, Rosemont, Illinois, Detroit, Michigan, and Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, there were three places, and it was a big body broker ring. Okay, so anyways, this has been going on for quite a while. All right, especially in Detroit. This is, one of the things that these people are known for. They're making themselves known for this. Okay, so this article right here says, when their daughter died 27 minutes after her birth in December 2014, a Detroit couple donated the infant's remains for medical research. 4 years later, Rachel Brown and Larry Davis don't know what happened to Alea's tiny body. They're plaintiffs in a lawsuit filed earlier this year that may help explain how the remains of 63 fetuses were discovered by police Friday in boxes and freezers at Perry Funeral Home at Warren and Trumbull on Detroit's west side. "Any loss is a hard loss," said Peter Parks, an attorney representing the couple in the lawsuit and the funeral home and several other entities. "But to lose a child you carried a full term is exceptionally tough, especially knowing their body didn't go where you think it did." The disturbing find at Perry Funeral Home occurred 1 week after the remains of 10 fetuses and 1 infant were found in the ceiling of Cantrell Funeral Home on Detroit's east side. Friday's raid at the Perry home came after Detroit homicide detectives also raided QA Cantrell Funeral Home in East Point to investigate a potential connection with the fetuses found in the ceiling of Cantrell Funeral Home in Detroit. Sorry, y'all, I have to catch my breath. My asthma is bothering me very bad. My allergies. Park said up to 200 more bodies may be found in an improper possession of Perry Funeral Home. State regulators shuttered the business amid a widening investigation of alleged improprieties at local funeral homes. And Detroit Police Chief James Craig said that law enforcement agencies are considering forming a task force to target improper storage of remains and fraud in the area. "I've never seen anything like this in my 41 and a half years as a police officer," Craig said at a news conference on Friday, adding, "It's disturbing, but we will get to the bottom of this." Browns and Davis's lawsuit against Perry Funeral Home alleges it stored the remains of stillborn and live birth babies in the Wayne State University School of Mortuary Science morgue for up to 3 years without trying to notify parents, some of whom wanted to donate the bodies for medical research. It also alleges the funeral home may have fraudulently billed Medicaid as well as the Detroit Medical Center for burials it never performed. Just sick. Park said Alea's remains were in the basement morgue of the Detroit Medical Center's Harper Hutzel Hospital for months and were never transferred to the Wayne State University School of Medicine as planned. The couple still don't know where Alea's remains are. Park said that one of the 63 fetuses found in Friday's police raid, some originated at the Harper Hutzel Hospital and were transferred to Perry Funeral Home, then Wayne State University's Mortuary Science Department, and back to Perry Funeral Home over the span of about 4 years. Parks and attorney Daniel Ciaslek filed the civil suit against Perry Funeral Home, the DMC, Wayne State University, and Knollwood Memorial Park Cemetery on behalf of Brown and Davis. Detroit Medical Center declined comment, citing its policy to not speak on pending litigation. Perry Funeral Home also declined a request for comment from the Free Press. Park said the remains of dozens of fetuses were initially stored in Harper Hutzel's morgue for months and in some instances maybe even over a year. Moreover, some of the bodies stored, as with Alea, were supposed to be donated to the Wayne State University Medical School. But the DMC carelessly and negligently failed to deliver the remains and did not notify the family of its failure to do so. "I really can't explain how these remains didn't make it to the medical school," Park said. Detroit Medical Center found the remains of 37 fetuses in the Harper Hutzel morgue in 2015 when it was consolidating it with another DMC morgue, Park said. When the DMC found the remains, it reached out to Perry Funeral Home to arrange final disposition of the bodies. The funeral home picked up the bodies on May 13, 2015, and later picked up other human remains from the DMC. The DMC paid Perry Funeral Home $100 per fetus. He said Perry Funeral Home did not keep records of the 37 fetuses from DMC, and the next time they were accounted for was August 7, 2015, when the WSU Department of Mortuary Science accepted the remains from the funeral home. A Perry Funeral Home staff member logged the transaction using Wayne State logbooks. Inspectors for the state of Michigan's corporations, securities, and commercial licensing Bureau said in a statement that they had found heinous conditions and negligent conduct at the Perry Funeral Home, including numerous failures to certify death certificates and obtain proper permits for burial. According to Michigan law, once a funeral director agrees to provide his or her services, final disposition must occur within 60 days, or the funeral director is guilty of a criminal misdemeanor. However, inability to obtain disposition authorization is an exception to the statute. The funeral home asked the public administrator to approve disposition of the bodies, but its request was denied. They didn't reach out to the medical examiner and didn't make an effort to contact the family members of the deceased, which is the first thing they should have done. Letters from the DMC to the Perry Funeral Home state the hospital made phone calls and mailed letters to families of the deceased, but according to the letters, no one came forward. Park said because of those letters, the funeral home managers did not attempt to contact the families of the unclaimed stillborn and liveborn remains. The law imposes a duty on the funeral home to make a reasonable effort to contact family members. In exchange for Perry Funeral Home providing Wayne State's Mortuary Science Department adult bodies for student embalmment training, the funeral home evidently negotiated the deal with the university to store fetuses. Wayne State released a statement Saturday. Wayne State has provided Perry Funeral Home with temporary secure shelter for remains over the years. However, it has never been our responsibility for arrangements or final disposition of the remains. Wayne State has no role in either retrieving remains or delivering remains to that or any other funeral home. The tragic situation is not a university issue. Park said he asked for records from Wayne State's Mortuary Science Department. The school issued a letter to Perry Funeral Home in May 2017 asking the funeral home to remove all human remains being stored at the university's morgue by August that year. Virtually all of them were removed in late July 2017 and placed back into Perry. Park said he believes there may be up to 200 remains in improper possession of Perry Funeral Home based on his research of logbooks kept by the Wayne State University School of Mortuary Science. He added that Perry does a pathetic job of record keeping and said that it might be deliberate as it would make it more difficult to conduct an investigation on its practices. Okay, now this is just ridiculous. I mean, they've already found, 63 fetuses, and they're saying that it could possibly be 200. That is an insane amount of babies, bodies. It's crazy. It is just, like I said, it is disgusting how these people are handling these bodies. It really is. Okay, this is a video. Hold on, let me pause this real quick. For some reason, it's acting crazy. Hold on. Okay, so here we go. Go ahead and play this.
Police department responded out late afternoon, early evening, to a call from a state regulatory agency referred to as LARA, as the License and Regulatory Affairs. They were in the process of investigating a civil matter involving the funeral home. In fact, they had gone to that location on 2 prior occasions. But we'll first talk about Friday. When they responded to the location, they notified the Detroit Police Department, and we entered the location, and what we found was 10 fetuses and 1 full-term child. Now, what was described at the location, the 10 fetuses were in a simulated cardboard box. I believe they were wrapped, and then the full-term infant was placed in a very small coffin. Those, both the fetuses and the full-term child, was secreted in an attic area of the funeral home. So from that, we decided that the Detroit Police Department would open a criminal complaint against the funeral home, given what we have learned about this investigation. Now, as I indicated, we had responded out on two prior, we didn't respond out, but Laura had responded out on two prior occasions. The first time in April of 2018, and it was at that time, and I think you covered this story, 2021 deceased persons were discovered. They were recovered, and then following that, in August 2018, there was an anonymous telephone tip that Laura received, and they responded back to the location, and at that time they recovered one fetus, and some remains that were cremated. And so this last one on Friday, where we got involved, there was an anonymous letter that was sent to Laura, and that's how we got involved in this. So that's where we are at this point. Again, the Detroit Police Department has opened a criminal investigation on allegations of a felony, a final disposition of a dead body, which is titled in the statute. In my 41 and a half years, I have never heard of such a case. It's deeply troubling. In fact, so much so that our officers that responded out on Friday, one of the things that we do on a regular basis when they're faced with a critical incident, we debrief and we dispatched our peer support team to go out and meet with those officers. Fortunately, some of the fetuses were marked, and so that might help us in our investigator efforts. There are others that there's going to be a challenge, undoubtedly. And so we don't know how the funeral home came in possession. It's all speculation at this point, but I'm sure we'll find out more as we move forward with the investigation.
This is so sad. You know, it's bad enough when, like I said, when someone loses a child, or, you know, of any, you know, miscarriage, you know, even if you decide to have an abortion or you don't have a stillbirth, it's so heartbreaking. You know, and these are things that, you know, you have to, you know, that's hard enough to deal with. But then for someone that you trust with the body of your child who has just died, and this is what they're doing with the bodies, it's sick. And I mean, they don't even know how. He just said it's unsure how the bodies, or how the funeral home became in possession of these bodies. Like I said, you know, that is a lot, okay? I don't care whether it's a fetus, you know, a baby, you know, and I'm talking about like a full-term baby, an adult. I don't care what the age or whatever is, okay? 200, okay, because they're expecting to find 200, so you figure 200, but just 63, that's a very high number of deceased people to have in one funeral home. That is an insane amount of bodies, okay? So for them to have that many in there, and they've already been breaking all the rules and having other people try to store bodies and stuff, yeah, it makes you wonder, where did all this come from? You know, when that guy Arthur Rathburn, when he got when he got busted, okay, they found hundreds of bodies in his where his in his building, okay, and they were being very improperly stored. A lot of them had diseases, HIV, hepatitis, other diseases, stuff that has actually been sent off to the schools for medical research. You know, all types of stuff, okay? So it just makes me wonder with the amount, and this is just me just me thinking out loud, okay? And sharing my thoughts with y'all. So I'm not saying that this is what happened. Please don't get my words twisted. But it just makes me wonder, before all of this, like, were some of these bodies, or some of these, fetuses something that maybe he had, and decided to pass on to the funeral home, to go to the next place, to go to the next place. All these people are profiting off of these bodies, okay? And I mean, I understand it did say in the article they gave them $100 per fetus, okay? But it could be a lot more than that. They're not going to release a whole lot if things are done illegally, all right? And, I mean, for, an entire body, you get a lot. For tissues and, different organs, you get a lot. You get a lot of money. And as it's being going down the chain and stuff like that, like, it's crazy the amount of money that these people get for these bodies, especially when the things are sold on the black market. Everything's illegal. Everything's under the table. And these people do not care. And it disgusts me that these people live in the same world that we do. Like, it's sick. And not even just the same world, they live in the same country as we do, okay? Which, gives all of us more access to be around these people. So I mean, if whoever's in Detroit, y'all, please just be careful, because the ones of y'all that live there, y'all know that, this has been a problem. And I'm not saying that Detroit is, Detroit isn't a bad place, but just like everywhere else, there's some bad people in it that are doing bad things, and that's everywhere, but, and things like this do go on in other places. They just haven't been caught yet. It's just, I mean, this is sick. It's disgusting. It's just appalling what they're doing and how they're handling these babies. It's sad. It's so sad to not know where your child is. I don't care whether the child is dead or alive. You still want to know where your kid is, and for people to just have your loved one's body just sitting around and they're not doing anything with it. That is just, it's morbid. Like, I can't, I don't even really know a word to describe that. It's terrible. So y'all, I wanted to show y'all this for those of y'all who weren't updated on this and didn't know. I mean, this is what is going on in the wonderful world that we live in today. And it's crazy. So everybody, be careful. Wherever you are, just be careful. If someone dies, just please try to send the person to someone maybe that, or, that is known somehow through, someone, whatever, and it doesn't even matter whether they have a good reputation. Like I said, these places do a lot of this all over the place. A lot of them have not been caught. So it's not just going on here. But we got to be careful, because we don't know what they're doing to us, when we're dead. And that's the sad part, You're supposed to have respect for people when they're alive. But, it's for someone who has passed away, you're supposed to have respect for that body. And this is just sick. I mean, it's a lot of sick people in this world. I just cannot imagine, I can't even imagine anyone doing something like this. It just, dang. So y'all, leave your comments and feedback below. If y'all would like to send me anything, you can do so on my email, or you can add me on Facebook and send whatever you like through there. If you have not subscribed to my other channel, please click on the link, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Till the next time I talk to y'all, have a wonderful night, and don't forget, I love y'all.